Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name's Emily and I make recovery videos for severe anxiety, agoraphobia, panic disorder, DPDR, and all of those related things. So first off, I just want to say Happy New Year, Happy 2024. This is my first video of the new year. I'm actually making it on New Year's, so Happy New Year again. But what I want to talk about today is a symptom that I would say is like probably one of the top anxiety symptoms and can be one of the most frustrating. It can also be very similar to DPDR or derealization, at least it was for me. But that symptom is brain fog. So I'm going to look at my computer right here because I'm going to read some stuff from anxietycenter.com, which is the only website that I recommend for searching your symptoms. Other ones can get really toxic really fast. But I'm going to read this, talk about what brain fog is, what causes it, my experience with it, and then what to do. So brain fog, it can be described as, and again, this is from Anxiety Center, CENTRE.com. It can be described as your head, mind, brain feel foggy, you're like in a fog, difficulty thinking, concentrating, or forming thoughts, feeling like your thinking is muddled and impaired, seems as if your thoughts are elusive and things you once knew seem hard to comprehend or recall. It feels like your short-term memory is not as good as it used to be. It feels like normal intellectual tasks seem more difficult. It can be hard to focus or concentrate. You can be more forgetful and forget things that you normally would not forget. Difficulty focusing and carrying on conversations. Your thoughts seem like they're in a cloud. Your thinking is not clear, and so forth. So let's see. What causes brain fog? One can be an active stress response. So if your body is in fight or flight, you can definitely have brain fog in those situations. Like for example, for me, when I had my very first panic attack ever, I went to the ER because I didn't know what was happening, and I literally could not, for the life of me, remember my social security number, and I could not remember my birthday. And it wasn't because it was gone or anything. It's because my brain was just so like focused on the anxiety and how I was feeling and the fear that it was like it just couldn't recall that information. And yeah, I felt very detached, which is why I say it felt a lot like derealization for me. But two, and this is what a lot of you that watch my channel are dealing with and what I was dealing with and what we call like a hypersensitive nervous system, but this website calls it hyperstimulation. So I'm going to read this paragraph and then we can just chat. Hyperstimulation. So when stress responses occur infrequently, the body can recover relatively quickly from the physiological, psychological, and emotional changes the stress response brings about. And so like my first panic attack, like I had all these symptoms, but they were all gone and I was back to reality, by that night. And it was just kind of like, that was weird, So when stress responses occur too frequently, however, such as overly apprehensive behavior, which we'll talk about, that's the whole anxiety cycle concept right there, and not using the correct response to things, the body has a more difficult time recovering, which can cause it to remain in a state of semi-stress response readiness. So they call this state stress response hyperstimulation. I call it a sensitized nervous system. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. But since stress hormones are stimulants, so like your adrenaline and things like that, hyperstimulation can cause the changes of an active stress response, even though a stress response has not been activated. And so that's what really got me is, even when I wasn't anxious, I was still having these chronic, literally 24/7 for over a year with no break symptoms. So as we mentioned, the stress response suppresses the rational areas of the brain, the cortex, and increases activity in the fear centers of the brain, the amygdala. So this combination reduces the ability to logically rationalize and process information, while at the same time it increases the awareness of danger, fear, apprehension, gloom, and doom. So as hyperstimulation increases, the persistence of these brain functions changes. So chronic brain function changes can cause chronic brain fog and quote-unquote memory problems. So now let's just chat about this. When I was going through this, I definitely got to the state of hyperstimulation after a lot of little stressors had built up. I got my first panic attack. Had a few months in between that first panic attack. I just kept living my life normally because I didn't know what it was. And the ER told me, like, maybe I had had too much coffee that day or something. They didn't really know what it was either. And so I lived my life, ended up having a surgery. The surgery was like the straw that broke the camel's back. My body's like, we're not doing this anymore. Like, we are beyond our breaking point. And then it started sending me chronic symptoms. And so if I could go back to December of 2021 when this all started for me, and I could simply respond, properly, not add constant fear, what they call apprehensive behavior, Googling, going to the ER, being on Reddit, trying to find every cure in the book, like spending 24 hours straight on the internet trying to figure out what was wrong with me and reading so many toxic forums and things like that, then I really think that this would have cleared up for me like rather quickly. However, I got into the anxiety cycle, which kept myself hyper stimulated, kept my nervous system sensitized, and I did that by avoiding things, by, like I said, adding fear, adding focus, trying to fix it, not letting my body just heal itself, and then that led to the chronic brain fog. So another thing that I wanted to talk about too that's kind of hand in hand with brain fog, and I have a whole playlist on this, is DPDR, or depersonalization and derealization. And so that is basically your body's like protection mechanism. It's an anxiety symptom, anxiety response, but it's your body's way of like numbing you out in case you get eaten by the lion, essentially. And so it kind of like, for me, it made me feel stoned or like high on drugs all the time. Like I had taken like a pain pill or something, or if I had had like a few drinks, or I was like had smoked weed or something like that. But I hadn't, obviously, and so it was a really scary feeling to have, and I felt very like removed from reality. And I would say brain fog and derealization specifically go very hand in hand symptom-wise. So my experience with brain fog, I would say, the symptoms listed were a good list. It felt more for me like I was really tired, but not in like a normal tired way. Like I would wake up in the morning and I would have like maybe an hour where I would feel like somewhat alert. And then the rest of the day for me would just be me feeling like very out of it, drugged, like I couldn't form sentences. I would really have a lot of fears about like, am I starting to experience dementia? Am I starting to experience, some sort of like brain chemical imbalance? Did the anesthesia from my surgery like poison my brain? Do I have toxicity from anesthesia? Do I have, brain inflammation from COVID? Like, what is going on? Which, again, that apprehensive behavior is what fuels it all. But anyway, I felt all of that. I remember there were times where I felt so detached, I guess, from what was happening and so, like, foggy that I would ask my husband something and he would be like, you just asked me that. And then I would be like, oh my God, I just asked you that. And I remember asking you that. And then again, there's the fuel right there. So just very like, when you're pregnant, they say it's mom brain, it's pregnancy brain. It felt like that on like steroids, And so when you're pregnant and you have that feeling, if you're a woman or you've been pregnant, then you know that it's like, okay, it's expected, it's pregnancy hormones, it's going to go away in a few months. When you're dealing with this, you're like, is it going to get worse? Is it going to spiral? What even is this? Is this even brain fog? What is going on right now? I also felt like I couldn't have conversations with people, and I would kind of feel like numbed out when people were talking to me. Like they were talking and I was like, it was almost like I could watch myself on a video and like if I were to have filmed myself and I would look totally normal. I'd be communicating pretty normally, but in my head I was like, what are they saying? What am I saying? Like, I just felt so removed, and so like foggy. It's really hard to explain. So that was something that I dealt with. And then, like I said, definitely just those fears of, is this something more? Were like probably the things that got me the most with the brain fog. I ended up getting tested for sleep apnea at one point because I was so tired all the time. And again, it was a different kind of tired. It was like a tired that made me feel anxious because I felt so out of it. And I remember like, especially if I was outside or if I was in the car, riding in the car with my husband, after about 2 p.m., the brain fog would be so severe that I would just feel like, oh my God, like, where am I? I had like horrible light sensitivity and it's just a very, very like uncomfortable feeling. So that was my experience with it. I'm sure I could think of so many other like little examples. There was actually one that my neurologist scared me about, and she was like, could it be a seizure? Which is one of my fears when I was going through this. But I remember I was standing at the refrigerator. This happened like way more than once. But I would open the refrigerator door and I would feel like, you know, this wave of, I guess, like derealization kind of come over me. And then I would feel like, what was I doing? Why am I here? And it wasn't the normal, like, what did I come here for again? Where are my keys? It was like oh my God, like, where am I? What was I doing? What time of day is it? Like, it was like really scary sort of feeling, you know? And then I would just feel like really confused for like a few seconds. And then it would be like, okay, like, ugh, okay, I came in here for ketchup, you know? And what I would say looking back is yes, you know, maybe part of it was just the brain fog and like the short-term memory loss or whatever that comes with anxiety, but I think a lot of it more than anything was the focus around it. And when you're not going through the anxiety cycle, you feel like I just said, oh, where are my keys? Oh, where did I put the ketchup? Where did I put this? Oh my goodness, I'm so forgetful. Move on. But in the anxiety cycle, it's like, oh my God, why don't I remember that? Why can't I remember that? Like, what's wrong with me? What was I doing an hour ago? What was I even like? Where am I even at right now? Who am I? And then it escalates into something that it really doesn't need to escalate into. So more than anything, it's the focus around the brain fog. Also understanding the brain fog, understanding like why hyperstimulation, why, you know, a sensitized nervous system happens in the first place, and how to get out of it. So definitely I would say watch my long recovery video because it really details out everything that I did, my response, my free recovery guides linked in this video that will show you exactly what to do to get out of this. But in a nutshell, my elevator like speech to you on this is you have to ditch the apprehensive behavior. You have to understand that your body is over its stress limit right now. And while it seems rational to do less and basically avoid doing these things until you feel better, that's actually not the way out. That's what I did for a long time. And the way out is to do things that you would normally do if you didn't have anxiety, and teach your body with time, you know, that you're safe by how you respond, which again is all in my guide. So download that. It's free. It's in the description to this video. If you're interested in group coaching, I offer that as well. You can join my coaching group or apply for it anyway, and I'll reach out to you. And otherwise, let me know in the comments your experience with brain fog. What are your other like main symptoms you want to learn about and understand? And I will make some more symptom focused videos soon, because I know that when I was going through this, that was like the number one thing that I would search is symptoms, how to get rid of symptoms, why are these symptoms happening, are these symptoms normal, and all that fun stuff. So I hope you benefited from this video today. I hope it at least made you realize this is normal. It's not just you, you know, struggling with this. And let me know what questions you have, and subscribe, join my Facebook group, download the guide, and stay connected.